They tried to break you. They tried to push your buttons, test your patience, and shake your peace. But what if I told you that there's a way, a real way, to walk through life so grounded, so unshakably calm that nothing and no one could pull you out of your peace? Not because you became numb, not because you became passive, but because you became powerful. That's the secret. The secret to never getting angry or bothered isn't about suppressing emotion. It's about transcending it. It's about developing a mindset so resilient, so deeply aligned with your inner strength that the storms outside never disturb the stillness within. Let's get one thing clear right now. You were not created to live at the mercy of people's moods, opinions, or insults. You were not designed to carry the weight of every rude comment, betrayal, or rejection. You were made for more. And the first step to never getting angry or bothered by anyone is to understand this truth. Your peace is your power, and it's not up for grabs. When someone disrespects you, lashes out at you, or tries to provoke you, the natural instinct is to believe that they're the problem, that the anger you feel is because of them, that your peace was disturbed because of what they did. But here's the truth that most people never realize. It's not what they did, it's how you received it. The real enemy isn't that person or that situation. The real enemy is the illusion that your emotions are controlled by others, that your peace is in someone else's hands. That illusion is what keeps people trapped in cycles of frustration, resentment, and rage. And until you break that illusion, you will continue to be a puppet pulled by the strings of other people's behavior. You see, most people live with emotional triggers just waiting to be activated. Their peace is like a glass of water sitting on the edge of the table. Any slight bump and it spills. Someone looks at them the wrong way and they're offended. Someone forgets to say thank you and they're angry. Someone disagrees with them and they feel attacked. It's a fragile way to live, constantly reacting, constantly at the mercy of others. But there's another way, a better way, a way of life where you hold the power, where your emotions are not dependent on other people's actions, where you stop reacting and start responding with clarity, strength, and intention. The first thing you must understand is that no one can make you feel anything. That statement might seem controversial at first, but think about it. Someone can insult you, but the feeling of hurt is yours. Someone can ignore you, but the feeling of rejection is created within you. Someone can disrespect you, but the decision to let it bother you, that's yours too. Emotions don't just happen. They're responses filtered through your beliefs, your expectations, your interpretations. And if that's true, then you're not a victim of your environment. You're the creator of your emotional world. That truth is uncomfortable at first because it takes away the ability to blame others. But it's also the most empowering realization you'll ever have, because if you created the emotion, you can change it. You can reshape your reaction. You can master your inner world. Now, here's what that means in real life. Let's say you're walking down the street and someone you know passes you without saying hello. Immediately, your mind jumps in. Did they just ignore me? Are they mad at me? How rude. And with those thoughts, emotions follow hurt, confusion, anger. But stop right there. What actually happened? Someone walked past you. That's it. Everything else, the story, the offense, the emotion, that was all created in your mind. It's not that the event itself caused your feelings. It's your interpretation of the event. Your inner dialogue shaped your outer experience, and that's where your power lies. If you can train yourself to pause, to interrupt the automatic narrative, to question your assumptions before letting them define your emotions, then you become free. You're no longer tossed around by every minor slight or perceived disrespect. You become stable, grounded, unshakable. And that's not just strength, it's emotional intelligence at the highest level. Think about this. Have you ever seen someone who seems completely unbothered no matter what happens? People talk about them, they stay calm. Someone gets loud in their face, they don't flinch. They walk through pressure and chaos with the grace of someone who knows who they are. That's not luck. That's not because they don't feel emotions. It's because they've stopped outsourcing their peace. They've stopped letting other people write the script for how they should feel. They've taken full ownership of their inner world. And the good news, you can become that person. But you can't do it by focusing on controlling others. You can't do it by waiting for people to treat you right, speak kindly, or respect your boundaries. Because the truth is, some people won't. Some people will test you. Some people will be toxic, immature, rude. That's not your responsibility. Your responsibility is how you respond. You can't control the waves, but you can become the one who learns how to surf. You can't stop people from being who they are, but you can stop giving them the keys to your peace. It starts with a shift in perspective. You stop asking, why are they doing this to me? And start asking, why am I reacting this way? You stop trying to fix the external and start mastering the internal. You stop blaming and you start building, because every moment of frustration is actually a mirror showing you where you still have work to do. And that's not a burden. It's a blessing, because now, instead of seeing the world as full of enemies, you see it as full of opportunities to grow, to strengthen, to evolve. And the more you evolve, the less you react. The more you understand yourself, the less you need to be understood by others. The more secure you become, the less other people's behavior matters. That's where peace comes from. Not from a perfect world, but from an unshakable mindset. From knowing that nothing outside you is greater than the power within you, from realizing that every reaction is a choice, and you always have the power to choose peace. Most people live their lives emotionally entangled with everything around them. They get pulled into every argument, every rude comment, every perceived slight. Their emotional world is constantly under siege because they haven't learned how to step back, how to observe without absorbing. Emotional detachment isn't about becoming cold or indifferent. It's not about shutting yourself off from the world or pretending not to care. It's about developing the strength to engage with life fully while refusing to let it control your inner state. That's real power. That's the level where you stop reacting out of habit and start responding out of mastery. Imagine walking into a room full of chaos, people shouting, complaining, overreacting. Now, imagine standing in the middle of that room with a calm, steady presence. You're aware of the noise, but it doesn't enter you. You see the drama, but you don't get sucked into it. You listen, but you don't lose yourself in trying to prove anything or fix anyone. That's the essence of emotional detachment. It's not that you don't see what's going on. It's that you've trained yourself not to be owned by it. So many people confuse detachment with not caring, but that's not what it is. In fact, emotional detachment is the opposite of apathy. It's the ability to care without becoming consumed. It's the ability to be present in someone's pain without drowning in it. It's the power to listen to criticism without letting it redefine your worth. It's staying connected while remaining centered. That takes strength. That takes emotional maturity. It's easy to get triggered when someone pushes your buttons. It's easy to raise your voice when someone disrespects you. It's easy to let anger or sadness or frustration take over when things don't go your way. But none of that leads to peace. None of that leads to freedom. What it leads to is emotional slavery, being constantly pulled in every direction, dictated by the mood swings and opinions of other people. Emotional detachment is what breaks that chain. It's what allows you to live with compassion, but without chaos, with awareness, but without attachment. Think of your emotions like water in a still lake. When your mind is calm and centered, that water is clear. You can see the reflection. You can see things for what they really are. But when someone tosses a rock, an insult, a betrayal, a rejection, ripples form. If you immediately react, those ripples become waves. The water becomes murky. You can't see clearly anymore. You're caught in the reaction. But when you practice detachment, the ripples settle quickly. You see the disturbance, but you don't amplify it. You let it pass. This isn't about ignoring problems. It's about handling them from a place of strength rather than from a place of emotional chaos. Detachment means being able to say, I see what's happening, and I will deal with it, but I will not let it control how I feel or who I become. It's about recognizing that you are not your emotions. You are the one experiencing them. And that means you can create space between the trigger and the response. You can choose how much energy you give to a situation, and you can choose what you walk away from. So how do you develop this kind of detachment? It begins with awareness. You must start noticing the moments when you get pulled in. Catch yourself in the middle of a reaction. Pause Ask yourself, do I really want to give my peace away for this? Is this worth my energy, my time, my inner balance? Most of the time, the answer is no. But people react automatically because they've never built the habit of observation. They've never created that gap between impulse and action. But in that gap is where your freedom lives. It's not that life will stop throwing challenges at you. People will still be rude. Life will still be unfair. But your power comes from how little those things can move you. It's not about what happens outside. It's about what you allow inside. Emotional detachment doesn't make you less human. It makes you more powerful because now you're not owned by external chaos. You're anchored. You're aligned. You're fully present, but not overwhelmed. Think of it like this. When you walk in the rain without an umbrella, you get soaked. But when you walk through that same storm with a strong umbrella, you stay dry. Emotional detachment is your umbrella. It doesn't stop the storm from coming, but it protects your peace in the middle of it. It allows you to walk through life's messiness without letting it ruin your clarity, without letting it drown your purpose. And the more you practice this, the stronger it becomes. You begin to notice that things that used to trigger you now barely register. That people who used to control your emotions no longer have the same power. You start choosing silence over arguments, understanding over reaction, and peace over being right. Not because you're weak, but because you've grown. Because you've decided that your inner world is too valuable to be handed over to every little disturbance. That's what real growth looks like. Not a life without pain, but a life where pain doesn't define you, where chaos doesn't live in you, where you can walk through any situation and remain rooted in who you are. Emotional detachment isn't about checking out. It's about rising up. It's the skill that separates those who survive life from those who master it. There's a moment in everyone's life where they have to decide what matters more, being right or being at peace. And that moment often comes when you're standing face to face with conflict, when someone is raising their voice, testing your limits, trying to pull you into a reaction. It feels personal. It feels offensive. And yet the greatest power you can demonstrate in that moment isn't found in arguing louder or proving your point. It's found in restraint, in silence, in holding your ground without needing to fight. That's not weakness. That's strength under control. That's discipline. You see, the average person believes that emotions are meant to be expressed the moment they arise. That if you feel angry, you should speak it. If you feel disrespected, you should defend yourself. But this kind of reactionary living is exactly what keeps people trapped in emotional turmoil. Just because you feel something doesn't mean you need to act on it. Emotions are messengers, not masters. They are signals, not commands. And the more disciplined you become, the better you get at listening without obeying, observing without reacting. Discipline is what allows you to create a gap between stimulus and response. That gap is everything. It's the space where you can pause, reflect, and choose. It's where you take back control. Without discipline, that gap doesn't exist. People go straight from trigger to explosion. They say things they don't mean. They lash out. They regret it later, but the damage is done. Discipline is the skill that interrupts that pattern. It allows you to pause and say, I feel anger rising, but I won't let it drive me. That's how you stop being a slave to your emotions and start being a master of them. This is especially powerful when you realize that most provocations are designed to get a reaction. Some people want to see you lose your cool. Some people want to throw you off balance, to manipulate your emotions, to make you act irrationally. And every time you react without thinking, you give away your power. But when you're disciplined, you don't take the bait. You don't fall for the trap. You stand firm, composed, unmoved. And that frustrates those who seek to control you because nothing is more intimidating than a person who cannot be shaken. Think about a time when you responded with calm instead of anger. Think about how powerful that felt, how mature, how clear-minded. That's the kind of emotional discipline that builds strong leaders, strong relationships, strong lives. It's not about suppressing your feelings. It's about about using your emotions as fuel for clarity instead of chaos. When you master that, you don't just avoid unnecessary drama, you rise above it. Discipline also means not reacting to every opinion or criticism. Not every comment deserves your energy. Not every challenge requires a response. People will say things about you, to you, behind your back. Let them. If you waste your life trying to correct every misperception, you'll never have time to grow into your full potential. Silence can be your greatest weapon. Not silence born of fear, but silence born of self-retroat. The kind of silence that says, I know who I am. I don't need to explain myself to everyone. This isn't about becoming passive, it's about becoming intentional. Discipline allows you to choose when to speak, how to speak, and whether something is even worth speaking about. It's the opposite of impulsivity. And when you bring this kind of intentionality to your emotions, you stop living at the mercy of other people's actions. You begin to cultivate an inner environment that no external situation can disrupt. That's what makes you unbothered, not the absence of difficult people, but the presence of internal discipline. Training this discipline is like building a muscle. You don't master it overnight. It starts small. It starts with choosing not to respond to a rude message, with taking a deep breath when someone cuts you off in traffic, with walking away from an argument that you know will lead nowhere. These small choices add up. Every time you choose discipline over reaction, you reinforce a powerful identity, the identity of someone who is in control, who leads themselves well, who doesn't give their power away for free. And the beauty is, this kind of discipline spills into every area of your life. It improves your communication, it strengthens your relationships, it sharpens your focus, because when you're not constantly distracted by emotional noise, you have more clarity to make decisions that actually matter. You stop getting sidetracked by things that don't deserve your attention. You stop living in reaction mode and start living in creation mode. You build instead of break. You rise instead of rage. There is a quiet kind of strength that comes with emotional discipline. It's the strength of being underestimated and not needing to prove yourself. The strength of having every reason to explode and choosing grace instead. The strength of knowing you could react, but deciding that your peace is more important than their drama. That's the kind of strength that lasts. The kind that transforms not just your behavior, but your identity. Because when you consistently act from a place of discipline, you don't just change how you respond, you change who you are. It's easy to assume that being unbothered is about blocking people out or distancing yourself from the world, but the real secret lies deeper. In your identity, who you believe you are at your core determines what can and cannot affect you. When you know yourself, really know yourself, you don't get thrown off by petty remarks, unfair treatment, or other people's moods. Their noise doesn't penetrate your peace because their opinions don't shape your truth. The reason most people are so easily disturbed is because they're still unsure about who they are. They're still seeking validation, still looking outside for something that can only be found within. And that uncertainty leaves them vulnerable, wide open to every opinion, every judgment, every form of rejection. When you anchor your identity in something unshakable, your emotional life transforms. You stop depending on praise to feel confident. You stop shrinking in the face of criticism. You stop needing approval to feel worthy. You realize that the way people treat you has more to do with them than it does with you. And once you truly embrace that, you're free. You're no longer on a roller coaster of emotions based on how someone else feels about you in the moment. You're no longer triggered by every shift in someone else's behavior. You remain steady, consistent, true to yourself, because your worth isn't on trial. You've already decided who you are, and nothing external can alter that. This kind of identity isn't built by accident. It's built through intentional reflection, through the decision to stop chasing validation and start standing in truth. It's built through the internal affirmation that you are enough, not because someone said so, not because someone stayed, but because you know it to be true. When you live from that place, people lose the ability to disturb your peace. They may still try. They may still misunderstand you, question you, even attack you, but none of it lands the same. Because when your identity is rooted, their words become like dust in the wind. Noticed maybe, but powerless. There's a massive difference between someone who reacts because they feel threatened and someone who responds because they are secure. When you're confident in your identity, your energy shifts. You no longer need to win arguments. You don't have to correct every assumption. You don't have to prove your worth to someone who doesn't see it. Instead, you let your actions speak. You let your peace do the talking. You show up with consistency, with kindness, with strength, not because they deserve it, but because that's who you are. You're not performing for the world anymore. You're living from truth. People may question your calmness. They may not understand your lack of reaction. They might even try harder to provoke you just to get a response. But what they don't realize is that your lack of reaction isn't weakness, it's power, it's control. It's the mark of someone who has nothing to prove. And that presence is magnetic. It changes rooms. It shifts dynamics. Because people can feel when someone is grounded. They can feel when someone is untouchable, not because they're hardened, but because they're whole. And that kind of wholeness comes when you stop making other people's behavior the measure of your value. When you stop tying your self-worth to how well you're liked, how much you're praised, or how kindly you're treated. You realize that the world's opinions are fluid. People love you one day and turn on you the next. If your identity rises and falls with that, you'll live in a constant state of emotional whiplash. But when your foundation is internal, stable, and unshakable, you become immune to that chaos. This doesn't mean you never feel hurt or disappointed. It means those emotions don't control you. You feel them, you process them, and you move forward. You don't linger in offense. You don't stew in bitterness. You don't hold on to things that aren't yours to carry. You choose peace again and again, not because life is always peaceful, but because you are, because you've done the inner work to remain centered regardless of the storm. And that inner work isn't glamorous. It happens in quiet moments when no one is watching. It's built in the times you choose silence over shouting, reflection over reaction, prayer over panic. It's built in the hours you spend rewiring your beliefs, replacing lies with truth, doubt with faith, fear with confidence. And slowly, almost without noticing, you begin to change. Not in a loud, dramatic way, but in a steady, unshakable way. You walk differently, speak differently, respond differently. Because you're no longer operating from insecurity, you're operating from identity. People will feel the difference. They'll sense that you can't be manipulated or emotionally hijacked, that your peace isn't for sale, that you're not living for their approval or reacting to their disapproval. And while they may not understand it, they will respect it. Because deep down, everyone is looking for that kind of inner strength, that kind of wholeness, that kind of freedom. And when you embody it, you not only protect your peace, you become an example of what's possible for others. Your calmness becomes contagious. Your stillness becomes a light in their chaos. Your identity becomes a mirror showing others what's possible when you stop letting the world define you and start living from the truth that was always inside you. That is the secret to never being angry or bothered by anyone. Not in pretending things don't hurt, but in building a foundation so strong that nothing can shake you for long. There comes a time when you stop blaming the world for your reactions and start owning your inner state like your life depends on it, because it does. Mastering your peace is the final piece of the puzzle. It's the moment you move from reacting to rising, from chasing calm to becoming it. And the secret to this mastery isn't found in changing other people or controlling external events. It's found in cultivating inner practices that protect your energy, elevate your mindset, and align your life with what truly matters. It's not something that just happens to you. It's something you train for, something you build moment by moment, choice by choice. Peace isn't the absence of noise. It's the ability to stay grounded while the noise surrounds you. And the way you build that ability is through daily disciplines that strengthen your mind and calm your nervous system. Your peace is like a fortress. You don't wait until the storm to build it. You build it every day, brick by brick, in the way you think, in the way you speak, in the way you respond to even the smallest triggers. Every moment is training. Every response is a repetition. You're either reinforcing your calm or you're strengthening your chaos. There is no in between. One of the most powerful practices you can develop is stillness. Taking time each day to disconnect from the noise of the world and reconnect with yourself, whether it's through meditation, prayer, deep breathing, journaling, or quiet reflection. This stillness is what allows you to hear your own voice amidst the opinions of others. It gives you the space to observe your thoughts without judgment, to see your emotions without being owned by them, to come back to center. Because without stillness, life will drag you in every direction. But with stillness, you become the one directing your energy instead of reacting to everything around you. Another critical habit is protecting your environment. The people you surround yourself with, the content you consume, the conversations you entertain, all of it impacts your emotional state. If you're constantly around negativity, gossip, drama, or comparison, it's going to erode your peace. Protecting your peace sometimes means walking away, not because you're better, but because you're wiser. Because you've learned that not every invitation to chaos deserves your RSV, that not every person deserves access to your energy, that your peace is too valuable to be placed in the hands of people who don't know how to handle it. Boundaries are not just something you set. They're something you live. They're not meant to control others. They're meant to protect you. When you say no, when you disconnect from toxic dynamics, when you refuse to let guilt pull you into obligations that drain your spirit, that's peace in action. And it's not always easy. People may not like it. They may try to make you feel selfish or cold, but peace isn't about pleasing others. It's about honoring yourself. You're not here to carry the weight of everyone's expectations. You're here to live a life that's aligned with your purpose, your calling, your truth. Equally important is the practice of gratitude. When your mind is filled with what's wrong, what's missing, or what someone did to offend you, your peace will always feel out of reach. But gratitude shifts your focus. It trains your brain to see the good, to acknowledge the blessings, to focus on what's right, and that shift is powerful. Because the more you focus on what you have, the less power negativity has over you. Gratitude doesn't mean you ignore the pain. It means you choose not to let pain define your perspective. It means you keep your eyes on the light even when life feels dark. Forgiveness is another peace practice that's often misunderstood. It's not about letting people off the hook. It's about setting yourself free. Holding on to resentment is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to suffer. It weighs you down, keeps you stuck, and clouds your clarity. Forgiveness doesn't mean you forget. It means you refuse to let what happened continue to control how you feel. It's a decision to release, to let go, to choose freedom over bitterness. And in that choice, you reclaim your power. You create space for peace to grow where pain once lived. Daily movement, whether it's walking, stretching, or full-on training, also plays a role. The body stores stress, anger, and anxiety. Moving your body releases that energy. It resets your nervous system. It brings you back into balance. You can't think your way to peace if your body is filled with tension. You have to move it. You have to shake the stress out. Movement is medicine. And when paired with breath, it becomes a ritual that restores not just your body, but your soul. Lastly, living in alignment with your values brings an unshakable peace when your actions reflect your principles, when your yes means yes and your no means no. There's no inner conflict. You sleep better, you speak clearer, you walk with integrity. And that alignment is magnetic. It attracts the right people. It repels the wrong ones. It shields you from manipulation because you're no longer living out of fear or confusion. You're living from a place of truth. Peace is not passive. It's powerful. It's something you fight for, protect, and practice until it becomes your default state. And the more you practice, the more you realize that peace is not a destination. It's a decision you make over and over again, not once, but daily, in how you think, in how you speak, in how you respond to the world that's constantly trying to shake you. Peace is built, not found. It's earned through discipline, awareness, and a deep commitment to becoming the kind of person who can carry peace no matter what the world throws at them. When you finally understand that your peace is your responsibility, something within you shifts. You stop expecting the world to change so you can feel better. You stop waiting for others to treat you right before you give yourself permission to feel calm. And instead, you take ownership of your internal world. That's when the secret truly unfolds, not just to never getting angry or bothered by anyone, but to living with a freedom most people never experience, because most people are still trying to manage everything around them, never realizing that the only thing they can truly manage is what happens within them. True peace is never circumstantial. It's personal. It's what you decide to carry inside of you, regardless of what happens outside. And when you've built that level of emotional strength, nothing external has the power to hijack your mood. You become steady, consistent, and rooted. Even when life gets messy, even when people disappoint you, even when everything seems to fall apart, you remain anchored. That kind of inner stability isn't about pretending everything is okay. It's about knowing that even when it's not, you still are. What makes this even more powerful is the understanding that not everything requires a reaction. So much of what people say or do is a reflection of their own internal battles, their unhealed wounds, their personal frustrations. When you take things personally, you absorb their energy, you internalize their mess. But when you view things through the lens of clarity, you start to see the truth. Their anger isn't about you. Their criticism isn't about you. Their mood swings, their disrespect, their judgment, it's all them projecting. And the moment you stop making other people's behavior your responsibility, you set yourself free. You begin to protect your peace, not by building walls, but by developing wisdom. You can walk into any room and no longer be affected by the energy of it because you've trained your spirit to be stronger than the environment. You can sit with difficult people, hear tough words, and still choose not to react. Not because you're cold, not because you don't care, but because you've trained your nervous system to respond with intention, not emotion. You're no longer triggered because you've disarmed the trigger within you. That's the essence of real power. The world teaches us that power is loud, aggressive, forceful, but that's a fragile power. True power is calm. It's quiet confidence. It's the kind of power that doesn't need to prove anything to anyone. It simply exists. And it exists in those who have done the work to know themselves, heal themselves, and govern themselves. When you operate from that level of self-awareness, you start to notice how much energy you save. You're no longer drained from defending yourself, arguing over small things, or trying to change minds that were never open to begin with. And what you do with that saved energy becomes your superpower. You can redirect it toward your goals, your growth, your calling. While others are entangled in emotional drama, you're building something meaningful. While others are distracted by petty conversations, you're focused on your future. While others are reacting to everything, you're choosing your response with clarity and purpose. That's how you elevate. That's how you outgrow the noise, not by rising above people in ego, but by rising within yourself in discipline and wisdom. You start to notice your triggers not as threats, but as teachers. Every time you feel irritated, frustrated, or on the edge of anger, it becomes a signal, not to explode, but to explore what belief is being challenged, what insecurity is being touched, what part of you still needs healing. Instead of reacting outwardly, you turn inward. You become curious. And with that curiosity comes growth. You stop seeing difficult people as obstacles and start seeing them as opportunities. Opportunities to strengthen your patience, sharpen your perspective, and expand your emotional resilience. Because every moment you don't react, you're building a legacy of self-mastery, of inner peace, of emotional intelligence. And that legacy doesn't just impact you. It influences the people around you. You become the calm in the storm. You become the one others look to when things get tense. Not because you force peace, but because you embody it. Your presence becomes a reflection of the inner work you've done. And that kind of presence is rare, it's respected, it's remembered. You no longer need to be liked to feel secure. You don't need applause to feel confident. You don't need an apology to move on. You've outgrown the need for external validation because you've found internal validation. And that kind of peace is permanent. It's not seasonal. It doesn't come and go based on circumstances. It's rooted deep within your identity, your habits, your mindset. So when life gets loud, you get quieter. When people get rude, you get wiser. When situations feel unfair, you get still because you know that peace is not passive, it's your position. It's the place you return to no matter what happens around you. And the more you protect it, the more it protects you. Every single moment is a choice to escalate or to elevate, a choice to react or to reflect, a choice to let the world shape you or to let your peace shape your world. The more you choose peace, the stronger it becomes. And the stronger it becomes, the easier it is to carry it with you wherever you go. That's how you become unbothered, not by controlling others, but by mastering yourself. There's a moment in life when you stop asking how to control others and start asking how to master yourself. That shift is everything. It changes how you see conflict. It changes how you interpret pain. It changes how you move through a world that's constantly testing your patience, your strength, and your self-worth. The final truth to never getting angry or bothered by anyone lies in the art of detachment, not from love, not from passion, but from the illusion that you need everything to go your way in order to feel peace. The more attached you are to outcomes, to opinions, to specific behaviors from others, the more power you give them to disturb your inner world. Detachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop clinging. It means you hold everything with open hands. You give your best. You show up with love. You stay rooted in your values, but you no longer place your emotional well-being in someone else's hands. You no longer tie your happiness to how someone responds. You no longer depend on approval to feel valuable. That's the power of detachment. It doesn't harden you. It frees you. It allows you to love people without losing yourself. It allows you to stay committed without becoming controlled. It allows you to show up fully while remaining emotionally sovereign. This level of peace only comes when you accept a fundamental truth. You are not here to control anyone but yourself. People will be who they are. They will grow at their own pace. They will fail to meet expectations. They will disappoint, forget, withdraw, misunderstand. And if your peace is contingent on how perfectly others perform in your story, you will live in constant emotional whiplash. But when you detach from that need, you begin to reclaim your power. You realize that your peace doesn't depend on the presence, actions, or opinions of others. It depends on your ability to choose your response regardless of what comes your way. That kind of choice is a form of emotional leadership. You lead yourself first. You stop waiting for others to change, to apologize, to see you, to validate you. You see yourself, you lead yourself out of old patterns, out of emotional reactions, out of bitterness, and into freedom. You become the person who doesn't need to win the argument, who doesn't need to prove a point, who doesn't need to be understood, to stand firm in your truth. And in that you find peace, not just temporary calm, but a long-lasting, unshakable peace that travels with you. People will wonder how you stay so composed. They'll misread your silence, misjudge your stillness. Some might even think you don't care. But that's not it. You just no longer feel the need to explain your soul to anyone who isn't ready to hear it. You've detached from the illusion that your worth is up for debate. You've accepted that being misunderstood is part of the process, and that letting go of the need to be seen by everyone is one of the most liberating things you'll ever do. Because not everyone needs to understand you for you to be at peace. Peace is not a group project. It's a personal choice. And the more you practice this detachment, the more clarity you gain. You begin to see situations for what they are, not what you want them to be. You stop projecting your expectations onto people who never agreed to carry them. You stop holding on to potential and start living in the reality of people's behavior. That clarity saves you. It protects your energy. It gives you the strength to walk away when needed, not out of anger, but out of alignment. You stop clinging to what hurts, stop chasing what confuses, and start flowing with what gives you peace. This doesn't mean you don't feel things deeply. It means you feel everything and still choose peace. You feel the sting of betrayal, but you don't let it poison you. You feel the ache of rejection, but you don't let it define you. You feel the weight of disappointment, but you don't let it harden you. You acknowledge the emotion, but you don't let it run your life. That's the beauty of emotional discipline. It doesn't make you emotionless. It makes you powerful. It gives you the ability to experience life fully without becoming enslaved by every moment of discomfort. And over time, you notice something beautiful. The things that used to shake you no longer do. The comments that used to trigger you now amuse you. The situations that used to send you into a spiral now barely register on your radar. Because you've trained your mind to protect your peace and your heart to trust the process. You've learned to sit in discomfort without reacting, to wait without worry, to let go without fear. And in that stillness, you find your center. You find your strength. You find the version of you that nothing can break. That version of you isn't emotionally numb. It's emotionally evolved. It doesn't run from confrontation, but it no longer seeks it. It doesn't avoid hard conversations, but it no longer needs to dominate them. It doesn't resist emotion, but it no longer becomes consumed by it. It simply flows, observes, responds, moves forward. And that movement is guided not by fear or insecurity, but by purpose and peace. You've become a master of your space, your mind, your emotions. You're not just unbothered, you're unshakable. And when people notice that about you, they might not understand it, but they'll respect it, they'll feel it. And some of them will be inspired by it, not because you preached peace, but because you lived it. You became the example, the living, breathing reminder that peace is possible, that not reacting isn't weakness, it's wisdom. That being calm isn't passive, it's powerful. That detachment isn't cold, it's clarity. And once you've tasted that kind of inner stillness, you'll never settle for anything less. When you finally reach the point where nothing disturbs your peace, when people's words, actions, or energy no longer have the power to control your emotions, you begin to experience a level of life that's almost indescribable. It's not that life stops being difficult or that people stop being messy. It's that you've trained yourself to rise above all of it. Not in arrogance, but in understanding. You see the game for what it is. You recognize the patterns. You feel the triggers arise, but they no longer command your response. That's the final and deepest layer of the secret, becoming the observer. When you become the observer of your life instead of the reactor, everything changes. You start watching your emotions instead of becoming them. You feel anger rising like a wave, but instead of riding it, you watch it. You breathe, you pause, you question. You give yourself the space between stimulus and response where freedom lives. That space is your power. That space is your growth. It's where you break the cycle. It's where you decide to become someone new. Most people don't live in that space. They react, they lash out, they shut down, they allow the energy of others to dictate their internal climate. But when you become the observer, you stop giving away your power like that. You remain present. You become aware of your thoughts instead of being hijacked by them. You begin to ask yourself questions like, is this worth my energy? Is this reaction aligned with who I want to be? Is this situation even about me? And in that moment of inner dialogue, you evolve, you rise. And this rise isn't dramatic. It's quiet. It's subtle. It happens in small moments when you choose to breathe instead of break. When you choose to stay silent instead of speak words, you'll regret. When you choose to walk away instead of prove a point. These are the choices that shape your emotional maturity. This is the real work, not visible to others, not celebrated, but powerful beyond measure. You're not just becoming calmer, you're becoming wiser, stronger, freer. When you live from the observer's seat, you also become deeply attuned to the fact that your energy is sacred. You don't just give it to anyone anymore. You don't argue with people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You don't waste your words trying to fix what doesn't want to change. You don't pour into conversations that leave you feeling drained and confused. Your boundaries become firm, not out of bitterness, but out of love for yourself. And those boundaries create space for peace to thrive. People might not always understand your silence. They might misinterpret your lack of reaction as weakness. But you know the truth. You know how much strength it takes to walk away from chaos. You know the inner battles you've overcome to be this composed. And you no longer need to explain that to anyone. You don't seek validation for your growth. You let your energy speak for itself. Calm doesn't beg to be noticed. It simply is. And through this inner work, you begin to attract differently. You find yourself drawn to peaceful environments. You seek depth over drama, truth over noise, stillness over stimulation. Your nervous system starts to crave what once made you uncomfortable: quiet, calm, space to think, space to feel. And with that shift, your entire world begins to reflect your inner evolution. You no longer fit where chaos thrives. You no longer tolerate what you once excused. That's not pride, it's progress. What's even more beautiful is that as you become the observer, you begin to feel compassion even for the ones who once triggered you. You realize how many people are trapped in their own pain. You see how deeply some are hurting, how reactive they are because they've never been taught another way. You don't excuse toxic behavior, but you understand it. And from that place of understanding, you detach with love. You forgive without reattaching. You bless from a distance. You walk away not with resentment, but with peace. The world might tell you to fight back, to be louder, to prove your worth, but you've outgrown that. You've realized that real strength is quiet. It's in the ability to feel everything and still choose peace. It's in the ability to stand in the fire and not be burned. It's in the choice to protect your peace above all, because you finally understand what it cost you to lose it. You've reclaimed your inner world. You've built a foundation so strong that no storm can shake it. And now your mission is not to protect yourself from the world. It's to carry your peace into it, to walk into any space and be the calm presence, to be the light, to be the one who doesn't flinch when chaos rises. Not because you're numb, but because you're grounded. Not because you don't care, but because you care enough about your own growth to not let the world pull you backwards. You've learned to guard your peace, not just as a practice, but as a lifestyle. You've developed an inner compass so steady that nothing external can lead you astray. You've become emotionally self-sufficient, spiritually grounded, mentally clear. And from this place, you move differently, you speak differently, you live differently. You're not bothered, not because life is easy, but because you've become unshakable. You've done the work. You've chosen the harder path, the path of self-mastery, the path of emotional maturity, the path of true freedom. And now you carry with you the one thing no one can take: peace that comes from within. There comes a moment in your growth when you no longer just seek peace, you become peace. You realize that the final layer of not being angry, not being bothered, not being shaken by anyone or anything is when peace is no longer something you pursue, it's something you embody. It's in how you think, how you speak, how you walk into a room. It's the stillness in your eyes, the calm in your voice, the softness. This is not a surface level transformation. It's a soul level shift. You've moved beyond technique and reaction management, beyond trying to control your emotions, into full alignment with who you truly are. And who you are at your core is not reactive. Who you are is not bitter. Who you are is not vengeful or offended. Those were learned behaviors. They were survival tactics, but now you've outgrown survival. You've stepped into conscious living. You're no longer trying to manage the world so it doesn't hurt you. You've become someone who doesn't get hurt the same way anymore, not because you're untouchable, but because you've healed. Because you've done the inner work to understand where your pain was coming from in the first place. Most of the time, the anger we feel isn't really about the present moment. It's a trigger, a resurfacing of something deeper, something unresolved, a wound, a story, a belief. The person in front of you is simply pressing on a bruise that already existed. And until you acknowledge that bruise, until you tend to it, until you stop blaming others for the pressure and start healing the source of the pain, you always live on edge. But you've gone deeper. You've looked at your pattern. You've asked the hard questions. You've confronted your ego. You've dismantled the beliefs that once told you that your value depended on how others treated you. And now you don't just react differently. You see differently. You see through situations. You see through people. You see through your own triggers. You see when someone is projecting. You see when something is about them and not about you. You see when a situation doesn't require your energy. You see when walking away is wisdom, not weakness. This clarity is what protects your peace. This clarity is what allows you to stay grounded when everything around you is trying to pull you into chaos. You've learned how to speak from a place of centeredness. You no longer raise your voice just to be heard. You don't argue for the sake of being right. You don't need to control conversations or dominate interactions. You listen with presence. You speak with intention. You're okay with silence. You're okay with letting things go unsaid. You're okay with people misunderstanding you. Because you no longer chase understanding, you rest in the truth of who you are. There's a soft power in you now. It's not the power that demands attention. It's the power that earns respect without ever having to fight for it. People feel it when they're in your presence. They feel safe. They feel held. They feel that you're not operating from ego, but from essence. You don't compete. You don't perform. You don't chase. You simply are. And that beingness, that quiet, confident, rooted presence is the ultimate expression of emotional mastery. And here's the beautiful irony. The more peaceful you become, the more powerful your influence becomes. Not because you try to change others, but because your very presence invites change. People begin to mirror your calm. They speak differently around you. They think twice before projecting onto you. They rise to your level instead of dragging you down to theirs. Not because you asked them to, but because you've become the example. This level of transformation isn't about pretending everything is okay when it's not. It's not about toxic positivity or spiritual bypassing. It's about choosing to respond to life from your higher self instead of your wounded self. It's about integrating your healing into your daily behavior. It's about creating inner spaciousness so that nothing can occupy your mind without your permission. That's what makes you unbothered, not ignorance, not avoidance, but presence, full, powerful. You're no longer at war with life. You've stopped resisting what is. You've stopped wishing people were different. You've stopped arguing with reality. Instead, you flow with it. You adapt, you adjust, you stay rooted in your principles, but flexible in your path. You know how to stay firm without being rigid. You found the balance between compassion and boundary, between expression and restraint, between softness and strength. This is true peace, and it's not fragile, it's fierce. Because the truth is, the most dangerous person is the one who has nothing to prove, the one who doesn't flinch in conflict, the one who isn't controlled by compliments or criticism, the one who can sit with their discomfort, observe it, and still choose grace. That person, you, is no longer shaken by storms because you've become the calm inside the storm. You've stopped looking for peace in people, in circumstances, in validation. You've become the source of it. And no one, no matter how hard they try, can take that away from you anymore. True peace is not an external state. It is an internal one. As you continue to embrace emotional mastery, you begin to realize that no external circumstance can truly disturb your inner calm unless you allow it. This realization is where the real power lies. Understanding that your peace is not for sale and that you are not at the mercy of the actions, opinions, or judgments of others shifts the way you approach every interaction. The final key to never getting angry or bothered by anyone is learning the art of surrender. Not in the sense of giving up or giving in, but in letting go of the illusion of control. You begin to understand that trying to control everything or trying to predict how others will behave is not only exhausting, but futile. Surrender in this context means releasing the need to control outcomes, to ensure that people treat you the way you want to be treated, or to create an environment where everything aligns with your preferences. It means accepting that life will unfold the way it does, and you can't always dictate how things happen. What you can control, however, is your response to them. You begin to operate from a place of trust in the process, knowing that what is meant for you will come and what isn't will pass by, without needing to alter or fight anything. The people who once triggered you no longer hold any power over you because you no longer expect anything from them. You've stopped investing in outcomes and have started living in the moment, fully engaged in the present, without worry about what might happen next. Surrendering to the present moment brings an incredible sense of freedom. It removes the weight of overthinking, of worrying about how others perceive you or how situations will unfold. You begin to realize that much of your anxiety and anger were rooted in resistance. resistance to what was happening, resistance to how people were behaving, resistance to circumstances that you couldn't control. The more you resist, the more you give away your peace. But once you stop fighting against what is, you open yourself to the flow of life. This doesn't mean that everything will always be easy or that you won't encounter challenges, but it does mean that you'll face these challenges with a sense of calm detachment, knowing that the outcome is not in your hands and that the process is more important than the destination. Surrender also involves embracing imperfection, both in yourself and in others. For so long, you may have tried to control your environment, manipulate how others treated you, or mold yourself into a version that was more acceptable to others. But when you surrender, you let go of these expectations. You accept that not everyone will understand you, that people will disappoint you, and that things won't always go according to plan. And instead of being angry or frustrated when this happens, you learn to smile at the unpredictability of life. You begin to see imperfections as beautiful, as part of the ever-changing tapestry of existence. Life, like people, is messy. It's not always neat, it's not always fair, and it's certainly not always predictable. And yet, this imperfection is what makes it rich, full, and meaningful. When you surrender, you also stop holding on to grudges. Holding on to anger or resentment is like carrying around a heavy weight that keeps you tethered to a past that no longer serves you. It takes so much energy to hold on to hurt, to replay old wounds over and over, and to keep waiting for someone to apologize or change. But once you surrender, you let go of this burden. You release the need for closure or validation from others because you realize that peace is not something someone else can give you. It is something you cultivate within yourself. You forgive not because the other person deserves it, but because you deserve peace. You stop living in the past and you stop giving the people who hurt you any more of your precious energy. You free yourself by choosing not to dwell in past hurts, and instead you focus on your present state of being. One of the most powerful aspects of surrender is that it allows you to embrace your own vulnerability. It takes strength to let go of the need to appear perfect or invincible. Surrendering means accepting your flaws, your mistakes, and your imperfections without judgment. It means acknowledging that you are human, that you don't have to have it all figured out, and that you don't have to be in control all the time. This kind of surrender opens the door to self-compassion. You begin to treat yourself with kindness, understanding that you don't need to be flawless to be worthy of love and respect. You stop beating yourself up for your shortcomings and instead allow yourself the grace to grow and learn at your own pace. This deep surrender also aligns you with the natural flow of life. When you stop fighting against the current, when you stop paddling upstream against forces beyond your control, you begin to feel supported by the universe. You begin to trust that everything that happens is part of a larger plan, one that you may not fully understand, but one that will always guide you toward your highest good. This trust in the process eliminates the need to control or manipulate situations because you know that everything is unfolding exactly as it should. You no longer feel anxious about what might go wrong because you understand that whatever happens is an opportunity for growth, learning, and transformation. The art of surrendering to life is the art of embracing what is. It is about finding peace within the chaos, calm in the storm, and serenity in the face of adversity. It is about becoming the still point amidst the whirlwind of life's challenges. It doesn't mean you stop caring or stop striving for what you want. It simply means that you stop trying to force things into your preferred outcomes and instead trust that everything is happening for your highest good. When you learn this, you not only stop being angry or bothered by anyone, but you also begin to experience a profound sense of freedom. Freedom from the need to control, freedom from expectations, and freedom from the pain of resistance. It's in this freedom that true peace is found. At this point in your journey, you realize that peace isn't just a fleeting moment or a rare occurrence. It becomes your default state. When you stop allowing anger or frustration to dictate your responses, you discover an incredible power that comes from simply choosing peace, no matter the circumstance. This doesn't mean that you no longer experience anger or frustration, but that you have cultivated the ability to choose a different path. You have learned how to interrupt the automatic response of being upset, bothered, or defensive and replace it with a conscious decision to stay calm. The magic lies in your ability to recognize your emotions as they arise and decide not to react impulsively, but instead to respond with wisdom and balance. The first step in this deeper transformation is recognizing that you are in control of your reactions. The idea that someone else can make you angry is a lie. They can trigger your emotions, but only you have the power to decide how to respond. This realization is liberating. It means you are no longer a victim of your feelings, and you no longer have to allow anyone or anything to dictate your emotional state. You stop placing the blame outside of yourself and instead take full responsibility for how you choose to feel. You begin to understand that your peace is yours to protect and no one has the power to take it from you unless you give it to them. This level of self-awareness is profound because it places the responsibility for your emotions directly in your hands. You no longer give away your peace by allowing others to control how you feel. This shift doesn't happen overnight. It's a gradual process that requires constant self-reflection and growth. As you deepen your understanding of yourself and your triggers, you become better equipped to handle challenging situations without resorting to anger or frustration. You learn to pause, to breathe, to step back, and assess the situation before reacting. You develop a new kind of emotional intelligence that allows you to respond thoughtfully rather than emotionally. In moments of potential conflict, you start to hear your inner voice guiding you to choose the high road, to remain calm, to stay grounded in the face of adversity. You begin to realize that most conflicts, arguments, and misunderstandings are rooted in a deeper issue: fear, insecurity, miscommunication, or misunderstanding. When someone's words or actions trigger you, it's often because they are touching on a part of you that feels vulnerable or unresolved. But as you learn to be more self-aware, you recognize that these triggers are not about the other person, they're about you. You start to recognize that your emotional reactions are an invitation to heal deeper wounds, to confront old beliefs, and to release old patterns. This shift in perspective allows you to respond with compassion, not only toward others, but toward yourself. You no longer need to react with anger to protect yourself. Instead, you can approach the situation with understanding and grace. The more you practice this way of being, the more you discover that your life becomes less about defending your ego and more about connecting with the truth of who you are. You stop trying to prove your worth to others. You stop needing validation or approval from anyone. You realize that the only validation that matters is the one you give yourself. This brings a profound sense of peace because you no longer seek external validation to feel good about yourself. Your sense of worth becomes internal, untouchable by the opinions or actions of others. You also learn that peace is not about avoiding difficult situations. It's not about running away from conflict or suppressing your feelings. It's about how you handle those situations when they arise. True peace comes from your ability to remain calm even in the midst of challenges, to stay centered even when life throws you a curveball. You realize that you don't need to react to every situation. You don't have to prove yourself in every moment. You don't have to win every argument. Instead, you can choose to let go of the need to control, to be right, to win, and just be present. In this presence, you find the deepest peace because you are no longer distracted by the need to fix, fight, or control everything around you. This doesn't mean that you become passive or indifferent. On the contrary, as you find peace within yourself, you begin to approach life with greater clarity and purpose. You begin to act from a place of strength, not from a place of fear. You make decisions based on your values, not based on external pressures or the opinions of others. You speak your truth with kindness without needing anyone to agree with you. You stand firm in your boundaries without needing to justify them to others. You live authentically without fear of rejection or criticism. In essence, you live from a place of self-respect and inner alignment. And in doing so, you naturally inspire respect from others. The key here is that peace doesn't come from avoiding conflict or withdrawing from the world. It comes from being fully engaged with life, but from a place of groundedness and calm. It's about learning to stay centered and balanced no matter what's happening around you. This ability to stay calm, composed, and unshaken is a superpower. It allows you to navigate even the most difficult situations with grace and poise. It allows you to see things clearly without distortion from your emotions or ego. And most importantly, it allows you to stay true to yourself, to your values, and to your peace, no matter what external forces are at play. In this journey, you learn that nothing external can disturb your inner peace unless you let it. You become the master of your own emotional landscape, able to choose how you feel and how you respond, no matter what happens around you. You stop reacting to life, and instead you begin to live it intentionally with purpose, clarity, and peace. This is the true essence of emotional freedom, the freedom to live fully, deeply, and authentically without being controlled by external circumstances, people's opinions, or your own unexamined emotions. It is the freedom to be at peace with who you are and with the life you are creating. As you continue to evolve on this path of emotional mastery, you realize that the secret to never getting angry or bothered by anyone is not about perfecting your reactions, but about continuously cultivating a sense of self-awareness and self-respect. The deeper you go into this process, the more you understand that your ability to remain unshaken is a reflection of your inner strength. A strength that comes from knowing exactly who you are and what you stand for. In the past, you may have been easily disturbed by others, by their words, their actions, or even their silence, but now you see them as part of your life's journey, not as something to be feared or controlled. You've learned that the only person who can truly disturb your peace is you, and that disturbance only happens when you give your power away. One of the most empowering realizations that comes from this transformation is that the world around you does not dictate your emotional state unless you allow it. The people who once triggered you, the situations that once upset you, they no longer hold that power over you. You've learned to separate yourself from the chaos that others create. Instead of letting the negativity of others spill into your life, you now protect your energy by choosing where you invest it. This doesn't mean you ignore the struggles of others or that you stop caring, but it means you stop absorbing their emotional baggage as your own. You see their pain, their anger, their insecurities, but you don't take them on. You choose to maintain your peace by detaching from their emotional drama, recognizing that their feelings are theirs, not yours. You've also learned that emotional detachment is not about building walls or cutting people off. It's about setting healthy boundaries and maintaining your own sense of calm, regardless of what is happening around you. You no longer react to situations impulsively or emotionally. Instead, you respond from a place of clarity and purpose. You recognize that you don't need to engage with every conflict or drama that arises. Sometimes the most powerful response is silence, walking away, or simply choosing not to engage. This detachment allows you to navigate through life with ease, unaffected by the turbulence that others may create. It's not that you don't care. It's that you've learned how to care without allowing their emotions to affect your own. Another important aspect of this transformation is the ability to stay grounded in your truth, regardless of the opinions or actions of others. As you continue to develop emotional resilience, you become more confident in who you are and what you believe. You stop seeking validation from others and instead start validating yourself. You stop needing approval because you've already given yourself permission to be who you are. This doesn't mean you become arrogant or dismissive of others. Rather, it means you become comfortable in your own skin and confident in your value. When you are grounded in your own truth, no one can shake you. You can be faced with criticism, rejection, or disagreement, and instead of letting those things affect your peace, you are able to stand firm and continue on your path without being derailed. In this journey of emotional mastery, you also learn the importance of forgiveness. Not just for others, but for yourself. Letting go of resentment, grudges, and past hurts frees up energy that was previously spent holding on to negative emotions. When you forgive, you release the need for justice or retribution. You stop waiting for someone to apologize, and you stop letting past wrongs control your present. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting what happened or excusing the behavior. It simply means you are choosing to no longer let the past have power over you. By forgiving, you free yourself to move forward with your life, and to maintain your peace, no matter what has happened before. You realize that holding on to anger or resentment only hurts you, and by choosing forgiveness, you reclaim your energy and your peace. True peace is also found in the acceptance of impermanence. Life is ever changing, and things won't always go according to plan. People will disappoint you, circumstances will challenge you, and at times it may feel like the world is against you. But as you embrace the ebb and flow of life, you learn not to resist the changes that come your way. Instead of clinging to things, you learn to let go and flow with life's natural rhythms. You stop trying to force everything to remain the same and instead embrace the beauty in the unknown. This acceptance of impermanence allows you to live more freely, knowing that nothing is permanent, not the good times, not the bad times. Everything is temporary, and this knowledge brings a sense of peace because you understand that every challenge will eventually pass. And every joy will eventually fade. You learn to appreciate each moment for what it is, without clinging to it or wishing it would last forever. Along this journey, you discover the incredible power of living in alignment with your values. When you live in a way that is true to who you are, when you make decisions based on your core beliefs, you naturally feel more at peace with yourself. You stop second-guessing yourself or living according to others' expectations. Instead, you trust in your own wisdom and judgment. This alignment creates a deep sense of internal harmony because you are no longer torn between what you think you should do and what you want to do. You are no longer driven by external forces or influenced by the opinions of others. Instead, you become your own guiding light, making decisions that reflect your authentic self and honoring your own path. The peace you seek is not something that can be found outside of you. It's a result of the inner work you've done to reclaim your power, heal past wounds, and align with your truth. It's a result of choosing to respond to life with grace, compassion, and understanding. It's a result of learning to detach from the emotional turbulence of others and staying grounded in your own sense of self. Peace doesn't come from controlling others or circumstances. It comes from controlling your response to them. When you have mastered this, you are no longer bothered by anyone or anything because you understand that true peace is an inside job. It's a state of being, not something that is dependent on external conditions. When you realize this, you reclaim your power, and nothing can disturb your peace again. This is your invitation to stop giving your peace away for free, to stop reacting like everyone else, to stop letting external chaos become your internal state. You are not just a body reacting to the world, you are a soul choosing your response. And the secret to never getting angry or bothered isn't hidden, it's here, it's you. The calmest person in the room is the most powerful one, and from this day forward, that person can be you. Let them gossip. Let them misunderstand you. Let them try to trigger you and let them see nothing works because you've leveled up. You've mastered yourself. And once you do that, no one, not one person can steal your peace again.